This video is for lesson 8.4, solving multi-step equations. Before we get into any examples in your notes, we need to review a few things for this lesson. So I would like for you to practice simplifying these three expressions, if you remember from chapter 7, using the distributive property and combining like terms. So take a few minutes to try these three examples here. For our first example, we are going to multiply 3/4 times 4x and 3/4 times 12. So 3/4 times 4x and 3/4 times 12. Remember, if you just put a 1 under the 4x and the 12, you can easily see we can cross simplify here. With the 4's, they would cancel out to 1, so we get 3 times x, which is just 3x. And then here we can cross simplify. 3 times 3 is 9. So 3x plus 9 for that first one. For the second one, we're going to combine our like terms. We have 7x and we have a minus 2x. That's 5x. And then we have a minus 8 and a plus 9, which is a positive 1, and then we just put a plus sign in between there, so we get 5x plus 1. And for our third example, we start by using the distributive property. We have to multiply before we can add or subtract. So we start by doing 9x plus 5 times 4 is 20, minus 5 times 2x is 10x. Now we can add our like terms. We have 9x and a minus 10x, which makes a negative 1x. So you can write this as negative 1x plus 20. You can write it as just negative x plus 20. You could write 20 minus 1x. You could write 20 minus x. You could write 20 plus a negative 1x, or 20 plus a negative x. Lots of different correct ways to write that one. Okay, so for this lesson, solving multi-step equations, we reviewed the distributive property and combining like terms because we are going to be using those in our equations as well. So when you're solving a multi-step equation, this is the order you need to go in. Now, not necessarily all of these steps will happen in every single equation, but if there's a distributive property, that has to happen first. Second is combining like terms. Then we add or subtract from both sides. And then we multiply or divide from both sides. So steps 1 and 2, what you're doing here is you're just kind of simplifying the equation so that it becomes a two-step equation. If you do steps 1 and 2 correctly, then it should just become a two-step equation, which is what we were working on in the last several days. So let's take a look at some examples. These are in your notes, so follow along. So for this problem, the first thing we need to do is distribute the negative 2. Okay? So we have 10 stays the same. Negative 2 times 4x is a negative 8x. And then plus negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Once we do that, you can see that when we get here, this is just a two-step equation. So we're just kind of adding an extra step here to the beginning of the process. So now we're just going to solve like we would solve a regular two-step equation. We want to get rid of the negative 6. So we're going to do plus 6 because negative 6 plus 6 is 0. Remember, when we add and subtract, we want them to cancel to equal 0. When we multiply and divide, we want them to cancel to equal 1. So over here we have negative 8x left, and 16 is 10 plus 6. And then our last step is we want to get x by itself, so we need to divide by negative 8. Negative 8 divided by negative 8 is 1x, or just x. And 16 divided by 8 is negative 2. So our final answer there is x equals negative 2. Now, to check a problem like this, same thing that we did with our 1 steps and our 2 steps, but we just have a little bit more work to do. So we're trying to figure out if I plug -2 in where the x is, do I get a 10? So we're going to solve this just like we would order of operations. Do the parentheses first. 4 times -2 is -8. -8 plus 3 is -5. And -2 times -5 equals 10, which is what we want it to equal. Okay, example number 2, we don't have any distributive property to use in this problem, but we do have some like terms that we can combine to simplify the problem a bit. So we have a negative or a minus 2x plus 10x, which equals 8x. So when we bring this down, that's a positive 8x. So when we bring down the -9, this is what tricks people a little bit, is what do I put in between them? The answer is a plus sign. As long as you have the right sign on the 8x, then all you need to do is put a plus sign in the middle. Once we do that, we have really nothing else to do except solve just like we did 2-step problems. So add 9 first. So -9 plus 9 is 0. 8x equals 88, and then divide by 8, which equals 11. To check this one, same idea, we're going to go back to the original problem, but we're going to just plug an 11 in, where now this one has 2 x's. So you actually have to plug 11 in twice. And then we want to know, does that equal 79? Because that's what it says it's supposed to equal. So order of operations tell us to do the multiplication first. So -9 minus 2 times 11 is 22. And 10 times 11 is 110. And then we add and subtract in order from left to right. -9 minus 22 is -31. -31 plus 110, you can use a calculator to help you with this, is 79. So that is correct. Okay, before we try our third and final example, let's try these on our own and see how we do. For this first example, you should start by distributing. -5 times 2x is -10x, and then -1 times -5 becomes minus a -5, which becomes a +5. So make sure you're careful with that double negative. A -1 and a -5 cancel out to a +5. So we get -5 on both sides. -10x equals 40. Divide both sides by -10, x equals -4. And for our second example, we have like terms to combine. Be careful, make sure you do 3 minus 8, not 3 plus 8. That's a -5x plus 6 equals -19. We subtract 6 from both sides. That's -25 equals -5x. We're dividing both sides by -5, so we get 5 equals x. Okay, our third and final example is a really tricky example. Lots of negatives. We have to be very careful. We are going to start by distributing. When we distribute, we are distributing not a 3, but a minus or a -3. This is the part that will really throw some people off. 7 stays the same. We do not subtract 7 minus 3 first. We leave the 7 where it is. So -3 times x is -3x. And then -3 times 4 is -12. Now here we have a minus sign in between, but the question becomes like, what comes between the 7 and the -3x? You don't want to rewrite this negative sign, this minus sign, twice. So it's either plus a negative 3x or it's just 7 minus 3x. Either way, this double negative over here becomes a plus 12. So this is very tricky because of all of the minuses and the negatives. Whether we have plus a negative 3 or just minus 3 is not going to change anything. We still have to now combine our like terms, which are 7 and 12. So you can actually do this two ways. You can add 7 plus 12 now and make it 19, or we can just subtract 7 from both sides and then subtract 12 from both sides. I'm actually going to do it that way because I think a lot of people prefer to do it that way. So your goal is to remember the x by itself. So we have to subtract 7 to get rid of the 7. 4 minus 7 is negative 3, and then we also have to subtract 12 to get rid of the 12. Negative 3 minus 12 is negative 15, and then our final step is to divide by negative 3, which gives us a final answer of x equals positive 5. That's a really, really, really tough problem. If these negatives weren't in here, it would be much easier. Okay, so let's take a few minutes to try some of these other examples. I'm going to actually do the first step with you and then pause and have you finish it from there. So for this one, the first thing you're going to do is distribute the 4. Now this one's a little bit easier than the one we just did because it's a positive 4. So when I distribute the 4, we don't have to worry about a bunch of negative signs like we did in the example that we just did. So negative 6 stays the same. 4 times 2x is 8x. Minus, don't forget, 4 times 11 is 44, equals 4. Now with this one, we don't want to have two x terms. We want to combine those. So you want to combine those negative 6x plus 8x to equal a 2x. So let's see if you can finish solving this problem from there. You should have added 44 first, giving you 2x equals 48, and then dividing both sides by 2, I'm running out of space, you get x equals 24. For our second example, starting by distributing the 1/3, you get 1/3 x plus 1/3 of 24 is 8 minus 5 equals negative 1. Now, you can either combine 8 minus 5 right away, or you can add and subtract them one at a time. I like to do it like all at once. So I do 1/3 x, and then I would change this to a plus 3 equals negative 1. So let's see if you can go from there. 1/3 x plus 3 equals negative 1. Okay, and for this one, you should have subtracted 3 from both sides. I'm running out of space, but you get 1/3 x equals negative 4, and then multiply both sides by 3 over 1, giving you x equals negative 12. So take your time, be very careful with all of the negatives and the minuses. Those are the majority of the mistakes people make. A lot of times you have the right idea as far as how to solve it, but make mistakes with the signs. So if you have any questions about what to do with minuses, negatives, you're struggling with that, please let me know so I can help you.